Ladies and gentlemen, would you please remain standing? Mary Ellen Pittard, the Catholic campus minister, will deliver the invocation.
In his remarks at an interfaith service at St. Bartholomew's Church in New York City, United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan stated, "Prayer is compassion and concern. It is thanksgiving and atonement. It is yearning and relief. Silent or vocal, public or private, prayer gives voice." And so, with this in mind, let us pray. Good and gracious God, who we know by many names, in your presence we come here today open to truth, love, and wholeness. We ask you to be with us as we celebrate all that the College of William and Mary has been, is today, and will yet become. We pause to give thanks for those who have gone before us, on whose shoulders we stand, whose unique contributions and efforts have resulted in the William and Mary that we know today. We pray for those who will come after us, that they will build upon a legacy of commitment, wisdom, truth, and justice. We give thanks for the faculty, students, staff, and administration who are the William and Mary of today. We are thankful for those who call us to care for our world and the people in it, for those who work to build up a community of peace and justice, compassion, and respect for human dignity. Lead us to reject any power or powers that would enslave us, to resist any tendency toward individualism at the expense of the common good, any exploitation or oppression of any person or group by another, any narrowing of the truth to mere abstraction or fact. Gracious God, on this day, hear our prayers, and may you ever bless the College of William and Mary and those who call her alma mater. Amen.
Do please be seated. Secretary General Annan, Chancellor Kissinger, General Zinni, Mr. Brinkley, distinguished guests, and members of the college community, welcome. Today marks the 310th anniversary of the granting of the Royal Charter that created the College of William and Mary in Virginia. It is a day of celebration, yes, but it is also a day of remembrance. Today we remember both the ideals which inspired our founders and the alumni and friends who have dedicated their lives to those same principles. One short week ago, America lost the Columbia, our country lost a hero, and our college lost a favorite son, William and Mary's first astronaut, Dr. David Brown, class of 1978. Dave arrived here as a freshman almost 30 years ago. His dream was to do science beyond the planet, and while becoming an astronaut must then have seemed an impossible dream. On January 16th, 2003, he boarded a rocket ship and he reached for the stars. Dave was at heart an explorer with a pioneer's spirit. At convocation last fall, he looked up at the Wren building and he said, "There was a day when this was wilderness. There was a day when this was nothing but forest." And someone said, "We're not going to only build a university here, but we're going to build a building to match, one that's world-class and will last for more than 300 years. That was a pretty audacious thing to do, he said. But audacity was Dave Brown all over. And yet he saw the founders of this college as risk-takers too. He asked our students to remember that however impossible their dreams might seem, they can't seem impossible or more impossible than the dreams of a man who could see a university in the 17th century Virginia forest, or of an anxious freshman who aspired to go to Mars. I would ask all of us now to pause to commemorate not David Brown's death, but his life, his boundless energy, his tremendous aspirations, and his truly remarkable courage. Ladies and gentlemen, Charter Day is our opportunity to rededicate ourselves to our mission, to prepare men and women like David Brown for lives dedicated to the enduring values on which this college was founded. We begin the Charter Day ceremony with selections from the documents that established the college and announced its creation. Our provost, Gillian, will read from the ancient royal charter of the College of William and Mary, and Robert B. Archibald, director of the Public Policy Program and president of the Faculty Assembly, will read from the royal proclamation.
William and Mary, by the grace of God, of England, Scotland, France, and Ireland, King and Queen, defenders of the faith, and so forth. To all to whom these our present letters shall come, greetings. For as much as our well-beloved and trusty subjects, constituting the General Assembly of the Colony of Virginia, have had it in their minds, and have proposed to themselves, to the end that the Church of Virginia may be furnished with a seminary of ministers of the gospel, and that the youth may be piously educated in good letters and manners, and that the Christian faith may be propagated amongst the Western Indians to the glory of Almighty God, to make, found, and establish a certain place of universal study or perpetual college of divinity, philosophy, languages, and other good arts and sciences, consisting of 1 president, 6 masters or professors, and 100 scholars, more or less, according to the ability of the said college. And the statutes of the same to be made, increased, diminished, or changed upon the place by certain trustees, nominated and elected by the General Assembly aforesaid. To wit, our trusty and well-beloved Francis Nicholson, our Lieutenant Governor in our colonies of Virginia and Maryland, William Cole, Ralph Wormley, William Byrd, and others, or the major part of them, or the longest livers of them, upon the south side of York River or elsewhere, where the General Assembly itself shall think more convenient within our colony of Virginia to be supported and maintained in all time coming. And forasmuch as our beloved and trusty the General Assembly of our colony of Virginia aforesaid has humbly supplicated us by our well-beloved in Christ, James Blair, clerk, their agent duly constituted, that we would be pleased not only to grant our royal license to the said Francis Nicholson and others to make, found, erect, and establish the said college, but also to extend our bounty and beneficence toward the erection and foundation of the same in such a way and manner as to us shall seem more expedient. We, taking the premises seriously into our consideration, and earnestly desiring that as far as in us lies, true philosophy and other good and liberal arts and sciences may be promoted, and that the orthodox Christian faith may be propagated. And being willing that forever hereafter there should be one such college or place of universal study, and that the said college should subsist and remain in all time coming. Of our special grace, certain knowledge and mere motion have granted and given leave, and by these presents do grant and give leave for us, our heirs and successors, as much as in us lies, to the said Francis Nicholson and others, that they may have power to erect, found, and establish a certain place of universal study or perpetual college for divinity, philosophy, languages, and other good arts and sciences, consisting of 1 president, 6 masters or professors, and 100 scholars, more or less. And further, we will, and for us, our heirs and successors, by these presents do grant, that when the college shall be erected, made, founded, and established, it shall be called and denominated forever the College of William and Mary in Virginia, and that the president and masters or professors shall forever be called and denominated the president and masters or professors of the College of William and Mary in Virginia. In testimony whereof, we have caused these our letters to be made patent. Witness ourselves at Westminster the 8th day of February in the 4th year of our reign, by a writ of the Privy Seal.
Trusty and well-beloved, we greet you well, whereas we have thought fit that all due encouragement be given to the College of William and Mary, lately founded in our town of Williamsburg in Virginia, for promoting religion and learning in those parts. We do therefore earnestly recommend the same to you, willing and requiring you to do whatever lies in you for the due encouragement of the said college, and in particular that you call upon the persons that have promised to contribute toward the maintenance of said college to pay in forthwith their several contributions, to the end so good and pious work may be carried on for the general benefit of that country. And so we bid you farewell, given at our court at Hampton Court the 30th day of December 1700, in the 12th year of our reign, by His Majesty's command.
The Worshipful Company of Drapers is third in order of precedent among the great 12 livery companies of the City of London. Established in 1180 and chartered in 1364 by King Edward III, the company has been a force in the affairs of Virginia since the founding of the colony. Indeed, the Drapers Company was one of the largest investors in lotteries promoted by the Virginia Company to raise funds for establishing here the first English-speaking settlement in America. More to the point, in modern times, the Drapers Company has been a consistently generous benefactor of the college, underwriting, for example, the annual Drapers Scholars Exchange with Queen Mary and Westfield College of the University of London, and providing important support for the growing links between the marine science faculty at the University of Wales, Bangor, and our School of Marine Science at Gloucester Point. We are honored to have with us this morning a delegation of Drapers led by the Master, the Right Honorable Peter Bottomley, MP, who brings welcome words of greeting.
Mr. President, Mr. Chancellor, friends, I'm especially pleased to be here because my wife was named after your state. She's up in the gallery, Virginia. And also to say, following on the remarks the President made at the beginning of this gathering, that some of the words that David Brown had said, I think, at convocation, are ones which I think have inspired people in this state and in our countries over the centuries. And he said, "Have a big vision, accept the risks, and be persistent in pursuit of goals. Never underestimate yourself. Go after those dreams." As the President said, he lived to make the world a better place. The Drapers' Company, without much association with our old trade, are a group of disinterested people dedicated at best to public service, and when slightly below that standard, we enjoy a good party, and our party is enjoying being here today. But in my history of the United States, there are two major references to the college here at William and Mary. One is saying that James Blair today would be equally well found as a steward at a racetrack, so it wasn't just the devotion to theology which was important. And the second was a reference to the Flat Cap Club, most of which seems to have gone, but I brought mine just in case somebody wants to talk to me quietly afterwards. In personal terms, we're very pleased to be here because the clerk to the Drapers' Company, Admiral Ross, is Anglo-American, and when today is over, he's going off to join 50 of his closest American relations in Boston. And John Freeston, the Beadle, is one of the more famous people who comes around here, and he's the person who helps to admit every new member of our company. You'll know that for 10 years, the President, Tim Sullivan, has been an honorary freeman of the Drapers' Company. In that, he stands alongside the Lord Chief Justice of England and a number of other people, including Her Majesty the Queen, who is in fact a draper by patrimony because her father was also a draper. And we look forward, Mr. President, to you joining the livery shortly when you come to England. And we'd like to congratulate you on all you do for the links between us. I didn't think when I was in 8th grade in Washington, D.C. in 1955 that I'd ever be in the presence of Nobel laureates. I didn't actually think that when I went to the University of Cambridge as an economist, the person who supervised me would also become a Nobel laureate. I was probably his worst student. And I was delighted to find when I came to Williamsburg that Barbara Rockwell, who was our neighbor in 36th Street Northwest in Washington, is here as the wife of John Rockwell. So it's marvelous to be among friends. Perhaps I should finish by saying that one of the great links between us is, of course, Winston Churchill, who, when he, I think, received the first Williamsburg Award in Drapers' Hall in the mid-1950s, that led to the creation of more exchanges, which the President has referred to. And we look forward to a young woman who came to Britain from Bosnia, which again, of course, was one of those places where our countries and other partners came together to protect people, in those cases, like perhaps, without treading on the Secretary General's field, people who are Muslim, to save them from the kind of persecution which the United States and Britain, at our best, with many other countries around the world, are dedicated to letting others like us be lands of the free, where diversity and values can be plural, and where we live with each other. When this young woman comes, after some years in education in England, coming without English, ending up in her school, grade school, one of the ones we helped to be responsible for, top, and coming here as the winner of the Frederica Lord Scholarship, we shall take as much pride in her as I hope all of the 5,000 of you do as well. So in finishing, Mr. President, I lift my hat to the college, to your values, and say that Britain, as well as the Drapers, will stand with this college, this state, and the United States. Thank you.
This college is the product of great ideas and powerful leaders, perhaps the most famous of whom forged from his careful study of history a new plan of government, one that would become the model for democracy in the modern world. Each year at Charter Day, we recognize members of the campus community, 2 members of our faculty, and 1 student who, in the estimation of their colleagues, manifest the same talent for invention, creativity, and vision that characterized the work of Thomas Jefferson. I would now like to ask the rector, please, to join me to introduce the college's Thomas Jefferson Awards. The Thomas Jefferson Award and the Thomas Jefferson Teaching Award were endowed by the Robert Earl McConnell Foundation. The Thomas Jefferson Award is given each year to an individual whose personal and professional life exhibits those qualities that Jefferson thought essential to the intellectual, social, and political advancement of humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my great privilege to introduce to you a woman who, in the estimation of her peers, exhibits those qualities. The recipient of the 2003 Thomas Jefferson Award, Provost Gillian T. Sell. Provost Sell, would you join me here, please? The presentation of this award to Gillian T. Sell, Provost of the College of William and Mary since 1993, is at once very easy and very hard. There is no one in the past decade who more readily deserves recognition for charting the academic course of this venerable college through the hardest of times to national and even international prominence. But upon her retirement, we will miss her wisdom, her grace under fire, her tireless energy. There is a delightful irony in her remarkable life. Raised and educated in England, her red brick laborite background might well have jarred many of our founders, though probably not this award's namesake. She was one of the first women appointed to the Department of History at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Perhaps prophetically, her first published scholarship in the field of Atlantic Canada's colonial history was in the William and Mary Quarterly. During her distinguished career at Chapel Hill, she served as chair of her department, associate dean of the graduate school, university affirmative action officer, and then dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. She was given a singular honor at Chapel Hill, where an eminent member of the faculty holds the Gillian T. Sell Chair for Excellence in Teaching. Provost Sell has brought to William and Mary her special combination of intelligence, energy, integrity, and a commitment to the highest standards of undergraduate, graduate, and professional education. In her very first days at the college, she took charge of the college's strategic plan and created a template of excellence that has guided us and will continue for the next generation to define what we do at the College of William and Mary. An historian who understands science, a quiet, perhaps even shy leader whose reputation for fundraising should give pause to those who hesitate to support this college to the fullest. A born teacher whose sharp eye and even sharper pencil are well known to those of us who attempt to provide prose to meet her high standards. A mentor who has blazed trails wherever she has gone and assured the next generation of women scholars respect and access undreamed of when she began her career. Gillian Sell is an inspirational, eloquent ambassador for William and Mary, the liberal arts, and higher education. Appropriately, it is Shakespeare in the words of Duke Vincentio, in Measure for Measure, who conveys our feelings simplest and best. Thanks, Provost, for thy care.
Gillian Sell, in recognition of your unselfish service to this college and to your profession, and of your exemplary academic leadership, it is my pleasure to present you with the 2003 Thomas Jefferson Award.
Do you remember the great blizzard of 1993? Actually, I thought we were going to have it again this year. But I do remember that, because it was the beginning. Well, not quite the beginning. That was a phone call absolutely out of the blue. William and Mary was looking for a provost. Someone had suggested my name. Would I be interested? No, thank you, I'm not looking for a job. William and Mary people don't give up easily, however. And after a conversation that lasted 45 minutes, I said, "You'd better send me some information about this place." The package came, my interest grew, and so the winter of 1993 found me driving to Richmond, trying to outrun the storm. Shortly after that came my first visit to the campus. If there was anyone I didn't meet, anyone who didn't get the chance to grill me, I don't know who that was. But those 2 grueling days of ordeal by interview only increased my interest. Why? Well, of course, the campus is everyone's ideal of what a college should look like. Not perhaps the new campus, but that's a whole other story. I liked the people, even those who asked impossible and occasionally impertinent questions. I met the president and knew immediately that this was a man with whom I could work, with whom I wanted to work. Above all, I realized that the college was the place I had been looking for, a place that did not just talk about the importance of teaching it, but assumed it, demanded it, a place that treated teaching and research as mutually reinforcing rather than competing with one another. A place with a pellucidly clear understanding of what it was about, that knew that bigger was not necessarily better. A place comfortable with itself, but ambitious. An old college that cherished tradition and embraced innovation. And it's this apparent dichotomy between tradition and innovation that has made William and Mary such an interesting place to me. Here we stand, celebrating the 310th anniversary of this college. A short walk would take us to the oldest building on any campus in the United States. Rituals mark the passing of every year. The Yule log ceremony in December, the ringing of the bell on the last day of classes, the senior walk to commencement, the more recent freshman walk through the Wren Yard that follows the opening convocation. All these things give this place its sense of permanence, its stability, and profound sense of community. Things done time out of mind. But there's another reality here. Look around you at what goes on in the classroom, in the laboratory, the studio, and beyond. Here are students, undergraduate as well as graduate, working with faculty on problems in nanoscience, plasma physics, genetics, bioinformatics. There's a faculty member on her way to use our mini supercomputer, Cyclone 2. Why are those students going to class at 9 o'clock at night? Oh yes, that's the class in cultural anthropology that's being taught simultaneously in real time to students on this campus and in Hong Kong and Japan. Those students over there are rehearsing for a concert of Middle Eastern music. That student helped develop a software program that is now used in industry. Another spent the summer investigating the impact of Agent Orange on the Mekong Delta. Yet another went to Nepal to study child labor. That faculty member received a Guggenheim Fellowship, one of the most prestigious fellowships, for his work in linguistics. This one, a Guggenheim for her work studying language use in primates. So what is William and Mary? Old, yes, and proud of it. Steeped in its history, of course. Hidebound by its past, no way. This is a vibrant, creative, always challenging place. The talent, energy, commitment, and the passion of the people have made it against all odds one of the best universities in the country. It is this that has made me so glad to have received that initial phone call 10 years ago, to have changed my "no, I'm not interested" to a resounding "yes, I want this job." This that makes me so proud, so privileged, to have spent these last 10 years at the extraordinary place that is the College of William and Mary in Virginia.
The Thomas Jefferson Teaching Award was established as a tribute to those teachers who, through encouragement as well as example, helped to shape the young Jefferson. It honors younger members of the faculty who have inspired in their students a love of learning. It is my pleasure to introduce this year's recipient of the Thomas Jefferson Teaching Award, Assistant Professor of Chemistry, Carrie K. Bagdasarian. Professor Bagdasarian, would you please join me at the podium? Carrie Bagdasarian, in the words of your chair, you've had an immediate impact on the quality of teaching in our chemistry curriculum. And that is no small task in a department noted for great teaching. Since you joined our faculty in 1997 following postdoctoral appointments at the University of Chicago and the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, you have shared your enthusiasm and clarity of thought with first-year chemistry students, majors, and through your new biophysical chemistry course with biology and pre-medical students. Your courses have already become classics. Your endorsers write eloquently of your enthusiasm, clarity, accessibility, encouragement, rigor, excitement. Your reputation has led many students to your laboratory, including 4 undergraduates who have co-authored with you publications in major scholarly journals. As it should and must be, the foundation of your teaching is research. Your work in theoretical and computational enzymology, coupled with interests in enzyme catalysts, earned you the 2002 Phi Beta Kappa Faculty Award for the advancement of scholarship. You engage your students not only in the rigor of science, but in the beauty, the connectedness, the universality of science. Albert Einstein once said, "When I think of my methods, I come to the conclusion that the gift of fantasy has meant more to me than my gift for absorbing positive knowledge." So, sir, do I think it has been with you.
In recognition of your dedication to your students and to the deep understanding of science and its place in the world of ideas, we award you the highest honor the college can bestow on a young teacher, the 2003 Thomas Jefferson Teaching Award.
Good morning. It's a good thing this isn't daunting at all. I am deeply honored by this award for my teaching, and I want to say a little bit about what teaching means to me, but I think the best I could do, I'll forego what I was going to say and just thank my students for allowing me to share my energy with them, and I'm really honored. Thank you very much.
In 1997, the Thomas Jefferson Memorial Foundation in Charlottesville endowed the Jefferson Prize in Natural Philosophy to be awarded annually to a William & Mary student who has demonstrated superior academic performance, remarkable potential for future achievement, and whose work embraces the 18th century idea of natural philosophy. It is my pleasure to introduce the recipient of this year's Thomas Jefferson Prize in Natural Philosophy, Mr. James F. Cahoon. James F. Cahoon, Goldwater Scholar and member of the Phi Beta Kappa, we are honored to present to you the 2003 Thomas Jefferson Prize in Natural Philosophy. This recognition is especially deserved as you are a chemistry and philosophy major with a minor in mathematics, intellectual disciplines that have diverged in the 21st century, but that in the 18th were seen as nearly the same. Your 3.96 grade point average is almost but not quite perfect. There was that pesky B+ in macroeconomics. But numbers, after all, do not show all. The breadth of your interests and enthusiasms is well demonstrated by your last summer in Florence, your courses in guitar, and in the art of India. You have also been active in the campus community as a staff writer on the Flat Hat, president of the Chemistry Club, and founder and president of the Secular Humanist Association for Free Thought. Praise from your instructors is bounteous. Says one, his work for me has been excellent, bordering on the extraordinary. And another comments, James has a wonderful coupling of intellectual intensity, clear-headedness, and fire. And given that you have decided on postgraduate study in chemistry, a philosophy professor laments, philosophy's loss is chemistry's gain.
It is clear that in your studies, in your research, and in your daily life, you exemplify the love of intellectual inquiry, discovery, and truth-seeking, so characterized by Thomas Jefferson. It is with great admiration, then, that we present to you the 2003 Thomas Jefferson Prize in Natural Philosophy.
We are honored today to have with us the college's 22nd chancellor. He is a man who has helped helped shape United States foreign policy during some of this country's most tumultuous years. He opened diplomatic channels to the People's Republic of China, and he worked to improve Arab-Israeli relations. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1973, and his expertise in world affairs and his talent for diplomacy have made him an invaluable advisor to today's world leaders, including our Charter Day speaker. He is, in my view, one of the greatest servants of our nation, privileged to hold high office in the last half of the last century. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former Secretary of State and the 22nd Chancellor of the College of William and Mary, Dr. Henry Kissinger.
Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, I followed as Chancellor Margaret Thatcher, which is an impossible assignment. I remember on one occasion she asked me what I thought the most important international problem of the moment was. And I said, the international debt crisis. Margaret said, what's the problem? You borrow money, you pay it back. There is no problem. She had an extraordinary ability to get to the heart of an issue, and she was an inspiration to all of us whose lives she touched. We are assembled here at a moment when this country is preparing for war and searching for peace. 18 months ago, America was confronted by a danger it had not even imagined. It was attacked in its homeland by people that we did not know were our enemies. It marked the beginning of a phase in foreign policy, where foreign policy was in a way being privatized. Private groups operating on the national territory of existing states were threatening the security and social stability of many peoples. And this threat merged with the danger of the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. So, what America has attempted to do is to achieve security by preventing the effectiveness of these terrorist groups and to keep them from acquiring weapons of mass destruction. And it is for this reason that one's heart and support goes out to that effort as led by the President. At the same time, all efforts of this kind take place in an international environment. And for the world community, the issue is not only security, but legitimacy, and consensus. And therefore, we are seeking at this moment to reconcile these in the discussions taking place at the United Nations. William and Mary is deeply grateful to the Secretary General of the United Nations to have taken the time out from his taxing and vital tasks to come here and accept our honorary degree. He speaks for a world at different levels of evolution. Some of it is in the globalized phase. Some of it is in the early stages of development. Some of it is driven by high tech. Much of it is driven by ideological fervor. And how to distill security and consensus, safety and hope is the overwhelming challenge of our age. I would like to thank the Secretary General not only for having come here, but for the delicacy, thoughtfulness, and compassion with which he has performed his duties. About 2 centuries ago, a philosopher wrote that someday the world will find universal peace. It will find it in one of 2 ways: by a cycle of catastrophes, or by human insight. One of the spokesmen and one of the hopes for human insight is receiving our honorary degree today, and it is my privilege to be able to participate in that ceremony. Thank you very much.
Stay right here. Thank you. Very, very nice. Since 1756, William and Mary has recognized lives of exceptional service and scholarship through the conferral of honorary degrees. And we started well. We set a high standard. Benjamin Franklin was the first recipient of a William and Mary honorary degree. Since then, the college has recognized ambassadors and business leaders, governors and artists, presidents and scholars. Some have worked on a global scale, some much more locally, but all have led lives of exceptional distinction. The Chancellor and the Rector will now undertake the very happy duty of presenting honorary degrees.
Mr. Brinkley, will you please join us? James W. Brinkley, your outstanding undergraduate record at the College of William and Mary foreshadowed an extraordinary career. As soldier, businessman, civic leader, and philanthropist, you have exhibited the highest levels of dedication and integrity. As a friend of this college, your loyalty is legend. Graduating from William and Mary in 1959, you were honored for your campus leadership with the Algernon Sidney Sullivan Award, one of the college's highest awards. Following graduation, you served as a captain in the United States Army. In 1962, you became a founding member of Mason & Company, which would become Legg Mason Woodwalker, one of the nation's leading investment companies. Your list of civic and charitable endeavors is formidable, matched by your contributions to your alma mater. A member of the Board of Directors of the Alumni Society, you were a 1987 recipient of the Alumni Medallion. Likewise, you served with notable distinction as a member of the Board of Visitors and Rector of the college. You are a trustee emeritus and former chair of the Investment Committee of the William & Mary Endowment Association and director of the William & Mary School of Business Sponsors.
James W. Brinkley, in recognition of your distinguished business career, philanthropic efforts, and service to your alma mater, the College of William & Mary is proud to honor you. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Visitors and the ancient royal charter of the College of William & Mary in Virginia, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
General Zinni, would you please join us? General Anthony C. Zinni, you have achieved national recognition as a soldier scholar. With a well-earned reputation for candor and clear thinking, your voice has become influential in the corridors of political power, as well as the classrooms of the academic community. Your military record includes service as President Bush's envoy to the Middle East, special advisor to the Secretary of State, and a distinguished senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. You have served as Commander-in-Chief, U.S. Central Command, Commanding General, 1st Marine Expeditionary Force, and Commander Combined Task Force for Operation United Shield. During your 2 tours in Vietnam, you were awarded the Bronze Star Medal with Combat V, and the Gold Star and the Purple Heart. You hold personal decorations as well from South Vietnam, France, Italy, Egypt, and Kuwait. By offering thoughtful, often provocative commentary on the role of the modern military in a changing world, a world that frequently includes non-traditional threats leading to often ambiguous conflict, you have helped your country better prepare to protect its vital interests. In your own words, you have asked from our future commander's character a sense of moral responsibility and an ethical standard that arises above those of all other professions. In saying those words, you describe yourself.
Anthony C. Zinni, in recognition of your remarkable military record, your commitment to your nation, as well as your contribution to our national public discourse, the College of William & Mary is proud to honor you. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Visitors and the ancient royal charter of the College of William & Mary in Virginia, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Public Service, honoris causa.
I would now like to ask His Excellency, United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan, to join us at the podium. Kofi Annan, a native of Ghana, in 1997, you became the 7th Secretary General of the United Nations, the first to be elected from the ranks of United Nations staff. Your work within the UN over a period of 3 decades has informed and directed your priorities. You are credited with bringing a strong moral sense to the post of Secretary General, which you combine with a deep appreciation of the multiple perspectives that bear upon the world's issues. And one of your great gifts is your ability of thoughtfully but effectively suggest to our great nation that maybe, just maybe, not everyone in the world sees things in the same way we do. In 2001, you were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for bringing new life to the UN. The United Nations also was honored for being the only negotiable road to global peace and cooperation. The world is indeed fortunate to have you where you are. North Korea, Afghanistan, Iraq, Venezuela, the Middle East, Ivory Coast, Cyprus, Congo, and Zimbabwe. The HIV pandemic, African famine, and terrorism are but among some of the most prominent of challenges facing the people of this earth. Your capable leadership and your ability to bridge differences of opinion have meant more. You offer the world its ultimate source of salvation, reason. You spoke recently of your wish, when you conclude your present work, to become a farmer. But I do not think the world will let your graceful intelligence or your extraordinary experience slip away without some resistance. Mr. Secretary General, we need you right where you are.
Kofi Annan, in recognition of your efforts to bring peace to a world torn by hatred and misunderstanding, to return to reason nations in thrall of intolerance, and to urge people across the globe to rise above their worst instincts and realize their greatest potential, the College of William and Mary is proud to honor you. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Visitors and the ancient royal charter of the College of William and Mary in Virginia, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Public Service, honoris causa.
Dr. Kissinger, President Sullivan, Mr. Brinkley, General Zinni, ladies and gentlemen, faculty and students. It is a great honor for me to receive this honorary degree, and all the more so to share it with General Zinni and Mr. Brinkley, whose contribution to global peace and prosperity richly deserve this recognition. It is also a great pleasure for Nan and me to be with you on this special day. My only sadness, which I share with all of you, is that this year your celebration is muted by last week's Columbia shuttle tragedy, and especially by the loss of one of this college's outstanding sons, David Brown, as we heard from the President earlier. As you know, his fate was shared by equally brilliant colleagues of diverse backgrounds, including 2 from India and Israel. The exploration of space transcends all boundaries, and the loss of Columbia is a loss for all humankind. Indeed, it is one of those moments when we are reminded that we all belong to a single human family. Today, that family faces a time of acute anxiety. There is deep unease about escalating violence in the Middle East, nuclear proliferation, and the possibility of new terror attacks. And of course, there is a great anxiety in this country and throughout the world about the prospect of war in Iraq. Many people are asking what the United Nations is doing to avert that prospect. Was our organization not founded to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war? Yes, it was. Our founders had lived through 2 world wars. They knew well the terrible devastation and suffering that war brings with it, and they were determined to spare the world from experiencing such agony again. We must never lose sight of that vision. War is always a human catastrophe, a course that should only be considered when all other possibilities have been exhausted and when it's obvious that the alternative is worse. If war comes to Iraq again, it may cause terrible loss and suffering to the Iraqi people and perhaps to their neighbors too. We all, and first and foremost the leaders of Iraq itself, have a duty to prevent it if we possibly can. But our founders were not pacifist. They knew there would be times when force must be met with force. And therefore they wrote into the Charter of the United Nations strong enforcement provisions to enable the world community to unite against aggression and defeat it. 12 years ago, when Iraq invaded Kuwait, the Security Council and the United Nations did just that. First, the Security Council gave the invader a clear alternative of peaceful withdrawal. Then, when he rejected that offer, the Council authorized the use of force. It was a grim choice, but a necessary one. The Security Council did not shirk its responsibility. Under its authority, a broad coalition of forces was patiently assembled under United States leadership. No less than 11 of the 26 countries that sent forces to help free Kuwait were Muslim countries. There is a lesson there that remains highly relevant today. Unfortunately, Iraq has still not complied with all the obligations it accepted in 1991 under the terms of the ceasefire agreement. In particular, it has not yet satisfied the Security Council that it has fully disarmed itself of weapons of mass destruction. This is an issue not for one state alone, but for the international community as a whole. When states decide to use force, not in self-defense, but to deal with broader threats to international peace and security, there is no substitute for the unique legitimacy provided by the United Nations Security Council. States States and peoples around the world attach fundamental importance to such legitimacy and to the international rule of law. One clear example of such a broader threat is a horror threatened by weapons of mass destruction. This is an issue of utmost gravity, by no means confined to Iraq, which obliges the whole international community to re-examine very carefully the foundations of its security. It is vitally important that it does so in a united way, so as to achieve greater security by strengthening and not weakening or undermining the multilateral treaties on disarmament and non-proliferation. Only collective multilateral approach can effectively curb the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and make the world a safer place. Nothing, of course, would undermine that goal more fatally than the actual use of weapons of mass destruction. I must therefore solemnly warn all parties to forswear any use of such weapons in Iraq or anywhere else. Any person who ordered or took part in their use would incur the gravest responsibility. But let us hope such fears will prove baseless. As the United Nations, we have the duty to exhaust all possibilities of peaceful settlement before resorting to the use of force. Just 3 months ago, the Security Council adopted Resolution 1441, giving a new, more authoritative and robust mandate to the United Nations weapons inspectors in Iraq. This resolution was negotiated with patience and persistence, and as a result, was adopted unanimously. That gives it even greater authority, an authority based on law, collective effort, and the unique legitimacy of the United Nations. This was multilateral diplomacy at its best, serving the cause of peace and security. Under this resolution's authority, UN inspectors returned to Iraq after an absence of 4 years. Inspections can work, as we know from the experience of the early 1990s. Then, UN inspectors destroyed many more weapons and facilities than all the bombing had done. Today, it is thanks in large part to the firm challenge issued by President Bush and the pressure that followed it that the inspectors are back in Iraq. On 27 January, they gave the Security Council their first report, and they will give a second report next Friday. There is total unanimity as to what Iraq must do. Iraq must disarm and must do so proactively. That message has been conveyed by a united Security Council, by the Arab League, and by Iraq's neighbors. There is also universal confidence in the two chief inspectors, Dr. Blix and Dr. El Baradei. They are doing a very professional job. This weekend, they are back in Baghdad, making clear to the Iraqi authorities once again what it must do to comply, both in spirit and letter, with the obligation to disarm. The strong presentation by Secretary Powell in the Security Council last Wednesday has undoubtedly strengthened their hand. If we succeed in getting Iraq to comply fully and disarm by effective and credible inspections, then the price is great. Iraq would no longer be a threat to its neighbors, and we would send a very powerful message to all other countries that are tempted to develop and acquire weapons of mass destruction. We would strengthen the non-proliferation regime throughout the world. In Resolution 1441, the Council decided to convene immediately if any further material breach of Iraq's obligation or any interference by Iraq with inspection activities is reported to it. The Council also recalled, in that context, that it had repeatedly warned Iraq that it would face serious consequences as a result of its continued violation of its obligations. Thus, if Iraq fails to make use of this last chance and continues its defiance, the Council will have to make another grim choice based on the findings of the inspectors, a choice more complex and perhaps more fateful than the one that faced it in 1990. And when that time comes, the Council must face up to its responsibilities. In my experience, it always does so best when, and most effectively, when its members work in unison. The Council should proceed in a determined, reflective, deliberative manner. Its measures and actions must be seen as firm, effective, credible, and reasonable, not only by the Council members, but by the public at large. If the Council stands united, as it did in adopting Resolution 1441, it will have a greater impact and a better chance of achieving its objective, which must be a comprehensive solution that brings the Iraqi people who have suffered so much fully back into the international community. Success in diplomacy means maximizing one's base of support. In current circumstances, it means enhancing the authority of the Security Council and reinforcing world order, particularly in the area of peace and security. That is important because what happens in Iraq does not take place in a vacuum. It has implications, for better or worse, for other issues of great importance to the United States and to the world. For instance, it will greatly affect the climate in which we conduct our struggle against international terrorism. The broader our consensus on Iraq, the better the chance that we can come together again and deal effectively with all the other burning conflicts in the world. And you heard many of them recited earlier this morning. These conflicts cause untold suffering, and they need urgent attention. From Israel and Palestine to Congo to Côte d'Ivoire, not to mention our efforts to stabilize Afghanistan. Even beyond that, beyond these issues, we have a wider international agenda which all the world's leaders set up for us when they came together at the United Nations during the Millennium Summit in the year 2000. They adopted the Millennium Declaration, setting themselves not only clear targets, for peace, security, and disarmament, but also for development and poverty eradication, especially in Africa, for protecting our common environment, fighting HIV/AIDS, promoting education for boys and girls alike, particularly girls, helping refugees and displaced persons, and upholding human rights, democracy, and good governance. It is by our success or failure in fulfilling those Millennium Goals, and not just in Iraq, that the role of the United Nations in the 21st century will be assessed. We all need to understand that the United Nations is not a separate or an alien entity seeking to impose its will and agenda on others. The United Nations is us. It is you and me. It is a global alliance of 191 states, all of which have their own contribution to make. Among them, your country, the United States, is not only the most powerful, but also the one that played a leading role in the founding of the United Nations in 1945 and in its collective action ever since. When there is strong U.S. leadership exercised through patient diplomatic persuasion and coalition building, the United Nations is successful, and the United States is successful. The United Nations is most useful to all its members, including the United States, when it is united and works as a source of collective action rather than discord. I ask all Americans present to keep this in mind, and especially you, the students of this great college, with long tradition of community service. Many of you are about to choose your career. I hope a good number of you will go into public service. You may not earn much, but you will be happy and fulfilled. I hope a good number of you will also do something about public service, regardless of whatever profession you choose. You will be seeking and continue to seek, I hope, to serve the public and to contribute to the welfare, not only of your own country, but also to all your fellow human beings, especially those who live in poverty and misery on other continents and yearn for lives free of freedom, free from fear, and free from persecution. So help these people on these, in these distant places, living in misery, living in poverty, to be free from want and free from fear. Thank you very much.
Mr. Secretary General, it's not hard to tell with what spirit your outstanding message was received. You did us an honor in coming here. You did us a greater honor still in, from this place, speaking to the world with such force, such reason, and humanity. It makes a difference, and we are grateful to you, sir. As we now conclude, let us remember that we celebrate the lives of those who have resisted cynicism and despair, who have persisted in their beliefs, in goals the world around them dismissed as quixotic, and yet they prevailed. David Brown reached for the stars, and he touched them. And we must not, mourning our loss, lose sight of what he achieved against what seemed impossible odds. Those here today and the people around the world face what often seem insurmountable challenges: failing economies, political chaos, devastating disease, the threat of war. But I suggest to you that the people we honor here today are testament to tenacity, to endurance, and to the power of hope. And that, too, is what this college is about. And it is our job today and always to reaffirm the tremendous potential of the human spirit. Now I'd ask you all to please stand for the benediction, remain standing for the alma mater, and during the recessional, would you please remain in your place to allow the official party to leave the auditorium.
Gracious God, in this community we give and we receive. May we go forth now to share the bounty of our love, and may the quality of our lives be our benediction and a blessing to all we touch, and may we truly go in peace. Amen.
William and Mary, loved of old, hark upon the gale. Hear the thunder of our chorus, alma mater hail. God our Father, hear our voices, listen to our cry. Bless the college of our fathers, let her never die. William and Mary, loved of old, hark upon the gale. Hear the thunder of our chorus, alma mater.